What's up, everybody? It's the Hard Deconstruction. You can find us at harddeconstruction.tumblr.com, youtube.com/harddeconstruction, as well as facebook.com/the Hard Deconstruction. You can also find us at our Facebook. That's exactly where you can find us. Anyway, today's film, this is with your host, Comp and
Mr. Sinister.
And today's film is...
It is called The Burrowers.
Burrowers is a 2008 horror/thriller/western. It's about this. In the Wild West, a rescue party sets out to find a family of settlers that has vanished from their home under mysterious circumstances. It's directed and written by J.T. Petty. Stars Clancy Brown.
I would say that was a pretty good description. Usually they're not very accurate.
Clancy Brown, David Boos, it's either Boos or Bousset, and William Mapother. And it's, well, like I said, it came out in 2008. It's one of those rare period horror films. Focuses more on the period than the
time of the month.
I know. Have you ever had sex with a woman on a period?
Yes.
It's a bloody good time. All right, so Danny, how did you come across this film?
I was just trying to rack my brains. What's a good movie to cover? I couldn't think of anything, so I looked at this list of indie horror movies, and we will be choosing more from that list.
I'm much more appreciative of this kind of film because it's a mashing of genres, which is a western and a horror film,
and it's well done.
It's kind of like how you didn't like it, but I liked Below, which mashed a World War II submarine film with a horror film with a ghost movie. So I mean, I like when we're kind of taken out of the time period that we have now. And
I don't think I disliked it. I just found it boring.
Okay. Yeah, I know. Believe me, I tried to show some of my family members, and they were like, "Get us the fuck out of here. Let's go watch the new,
right,
let's go watch the new Kevin Hart movie." And anyway, nice guy Kevin Hart. Anyway, so yeah, I enjoyed this film. I thought, boy, is this a dark movie, man? It's a dark movie. I mean, usually movies that are set in the West, unless they star some sort of John Wayne, for the most part, they don't have a happy ending, and this lives up to it. I mean, they're really dour. I've never seen a Western film really. I mean, I used to
watch them as a kid.
No, I don't really like Western movies. Something doesn't connect to me about Western films. I don't know. The only Western I watched as a kid, the one that really stood out was.
It's because you still resent them for kicking you out of Mexico, or what used to be Mexico, turning into Texas.
That's absolutely right. I'm Mexican. I didn't know that until right now, until you told me that.
You know what? It's all the same thing. Shut the fuck up.
I went to a primarily white college in Long Island. Hey, yeah, that's right. You're from Long Island too, so maybe this makes sense.
Shut up.
Every joke was a Mexican joke towards me, and I'm like, but guys, I'm Puerto Rican. No difference. Anyway. So yeah, this is the film starts out with a family. Was it more like the horror version of Twister? The opening of this film, with actually it starts out with some sort of weird dream sequence or some kind of memory sequence where the main character named Coffee, who's an Irish gentleman who I guess he explains later on in the film that he was in New York City but there was no work for him, so he decided to move out west to look for work.
Always a good idea.
It takes place in the late 1800s, so I think it was around 1867 or something like that.
It says it in the thing, actually.
It says it in the very
1879.
It says it in the very opening, right? And I'm no good with times. I don't know when. I don't know. There were no samurais here, so it didn't make any sense to me. The 1800s are all crazy.
It was right.
Oh, that was an Asian thing. Excuse me.
Civil War ended in the late 1860s.
So this gentleman Coffee, I guess it sounds like he's going over, because you just see an image of a guy giving a brooch to a woman and her running back to her family and stuff like that in this very vast field.
She's hot.
She's very pretty. And Coffee is going to, I think Marianne is the girl's name, right? And she has no lines in the movie, but she gets fourth billing in IMDb, so good for her. And he's actually she does say something. She says, what the hell is it?
There's a porn scene they cut out.
The aliens fuck right in the ass. She's there. I guess he's going over in his head how he's gonna propose to the father. You know what I mean? When you talk to the father before you ask the daughter's hand in marriage, kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
So it's kind of you hear that going over and over, and then it cuts to I guess a little time after where she's at a farm with her. I guess they're settlers, and they're in this.
You should never settle.
Yes, they're in this house in the middle of where the fuck bumfuck Where was it? Somewhere in the West. That's what I'm gonna say. I have no idea what's in the West. So they're there, and then they suddenly they hear shouts in the distance and gunshots, and it's Marianne is with her brother, her two sisters, another brother, and the mother. Father comes in. It's funny. The father in the film, I think, was in this. Before I got cut off, I saw A Million Ways to Die in the West, which is probably it's okay. I mean, originally it was supposed to be an episode of Family Guy that they just kind of made into a film.
Oh, okay.
And they should have just left it as a Family Guy movie. Although it's so funny with what's his name, the Seth MacFarlane. Like I don't find Family Guy funny anymore. Like laugh out loud funny, like I did the first season. Mm-hmm. But I find him kind of funny and charming in a way. It doesn't make any sense.
I dislike him actually.
Do you wish that he had died on 9/11 like he was supposed to?
I kind of do. No,
Jeez.
I don't.
Let's roll. Anyway, that's a reference towards Curb Your Enthusiasm. So anyway, the father was actually his father in that movie too, and there was actually a funny joke where he's like telling him as a kid, "Hey, put your tooth under the bed for the tooth fairy," and then when the kid wakes up, he actually put cow shit under his pillow. So that was funny. But anyway, that and Back to the Future 3, which I was so bored with when I saw it in the theaters. There's just something I think with westerns.
It's not as good as the other ones, but I still kind of like it, and I always get a warm, fuzzy feeling when he has the train at the end.
Right. And it scared the shit out of me in the theater. When that thing exploded into the middle of the screen, I nearly fucking died, right? It scared me so bad.
Scared you. You must have been, traumatized.
I'm a sick kid. What can I say? Yeah, but I don't know. Do you connect better with Western films or something? Or is there just something about it that you like?
I love the feeling of them. I mean, that's why I love Breaking Bad so much. And
I can see that as a
dark, fucking gritty feeling. It's
great.
I
can see that it's like a spaghetti western. It's very different, I guess. In that time period in America.
And Dark Tower, that's entirely
that's true.
Western.
And because obviously in different sorts of areas, like Japan had their samurais, America had their cowboys, and what did China? I don't know any other places. I don't know. But anyway, I never really got into the idea of a Western film. I can appreciate it. I do remember watching that movie Tombstone and liking it a lot. That was a great movie.
I actually saw that in theaters with my dad when I was a kid.
That was fun, and that was depressing as shit too, that movie as well. Because it is like with those films, they like to hit you over the head that everybody dies and that past time is past.
Well, it's like a really shitty fucking time period. There's just crazy violence and
you get sick so easily. Yeah, right. So in this kind of film, the reason why I like when horror films take place in a different period is because you don't have the creature comforts of now. Like you don't have cell phones to kind of contact people. It leaves you way more vulnerable to the evils. And so anyway, we see that this family gets accosted by these creatures. We don't necessarily see them out front what they are.
What do you say on a scale of 1 to 10? How sexy are those creatures?
It reminded me of Reagan running down the staircase from Exorcist. No, I didn't like the monster designs in this movie at all. I didn't like them. I don't know. Yeah. Did you like them or no?
It was okay.
They reminded me too much of who's that guy who the guy who's directing the new Star Wars, who did the Star Trek movie.
J.J. Abrams.
J.J. Abrams, and he did the design for the well, he always kind of uses the same designs for all his. See, that's them coming to get him because his bad monster designs.
Yep.
His design for or the crew that he hires to design like Cloverfield, the monster. You know how they kind of have this organic, generic alien look to them. And that's what I felt they had here, but even lower budget. And it was weird because the movie looks good. The movie looks like
a low-budget movie, though.
It is a low-budget film, but I think they at least use the budgeting in the right way because it is a Western film. You only have mostly 4 guys on screen for the there's
it's really
12.
Well shot. It's a little too darkly shot, though. The lighting's a little too dark.
Yeah, there are some parts at night where you're just like, what's going on? So anyway,
you're struggling to see.
This family obviously gets attacked at the very beginning by some sort of unseen force or forces. And they all get killed, and Coffee comes back the next morning, I guess, to speak to the father about asking for the daughter's hand in marriage. I guess he gets a shitty surprise that morning because he finds the father split in half or something like that, or split into pieces, and he sees, the whole rest of the family is dead.
Jeffrey Dahmer would be so happy to find that.
He would have just that would have
been his lucky day. It would have been the polar opposite reaction of that guy.
He would have been rubbing his palms together, and he said, "Oh shit, kids for lunch." and the
little
brother
pieces
for
home,
some.
like, you'd have like a little souvenir to take home.
Yeah, he would look like Dalsum with 3 skulls on his like neck and stuff like that. So the Marianne, the oldest daughter, was missing now, and they're like, Coffee sets on a task to find these people. I was kind of confused, and maybe I kind of missed on it, but how did he get to work with John Clay, who was Clancy Brown? Clancy Brown is kind of like Clancy Brown is in a lot of stuff. He's in a lot of films.
A lot of stuff. I mean, I know him mostly as the Carnival guy. He's like
right. Yeah, I think that's
his.
Also,
he's in.
That's probably his highest pro.
Episodes.
He was also in Pet Sematary 2, where he played a zombie sheriff.
Yeah, he's like the bad dad, and also he's in Adventure Time. He's one of the voices. I forget.
He reminds me a lot of almost like an alternate version of the guy who plays Hellboy. I can't think of that actor's name. Where they're kind of like in every movie that Guillermo del Toro does.
Yeah, the guy that looks like a gorilla. He's also in City of Lost Children. I can't think of
Clancy Brown was recently in that show Sleepy Hollow, which is kind of getting a cult status. Well, I watched a couple episodes, but I kind of couldn't get into it. All these people saying it's great, but to me, it kind of feels like a watered down X-Files. But anyway, so with this film, he gets. How did he get Ron Perlman? Right. How did Coffee get the assistance from John Clay? Was it necessarily spelled out? Because John Clay is this kind of gun for hire, I guess.
I think.
Unless Clay knew that family, like he knew Marianne Stewart's family, that's the only thing I can think of.
I think he called it in, kind of.
I see.
That guy came and investigated it, and then took him along for the ride, kind of.
So
rescue them.
With them, they bring in another hired gun who was played by William Mapother, who I believe.
He had a nice mustache, that guy.
Was William Mapother in Lost? I think. Wasn't he?
He's in Lost. He's Horace, I believe.
He was the guy that I know he's he's Ethan Rom. Remember? That's why I remember him. Ethan Rom. Remember the whole big deal with Ethan Rom during Lost?
Oh no, yeah. I said he's one of the first others you find.
Right. He was probably the one that everybody remembers.
Their camp. He's from the other side of the plane. He claims.
He's like Tom Cruise's cousin, so you can kind of. That's the second biggest thing that they made sure. He kind of looks like Tom Cruise too in a weird way, like if Tom Cruise didn't get a nose job or something.
Better looking. And probably less crazy.
And he has a certain look to him. He kind of reminded me of Doc Holliday from Tombstone. It's kind of like that role, but not like as monstrous as him. He's just like you were safe with that guy around. So they decide
when you first said it, I thought you were talking about the guy, the really big asshole Henry with the mustache.
No, they
like leading the cavalry or whatever.
So they're trying to figure it out, and they call in the assistance of the North, the cavalry from the North, which is led by Henry Victor, who is played by Doug Hutchison, who plays a very slimy North guy. And if you know who Doug Hutchison is, he was the asshole CO from Green Mile, the one who like killing the mice and treating people badly and like. No, you don't know who that is?
I've actually seen that.
Oh, it was a good movie. It was very depressing, just like every Stephen King film that takes place in prison. And but the most important thing
and Clancy Brown is in Shawshank Redemption.
Okay, yeah, he is in that too. And but Doug Hutchison, what he's mostly known for now is because he married a 17-year-old girl, and he got really famous, Courtney Stodden. He married a 17-year-old girl, and he's like 50s, mid 50s, late 50s. And that's so he went down that route. The girl looks like 40 years old. She's like a 17-year-old girl that is like blonde but looks like a real housewife of like California. She looks like that.
So she did a lot of meth or something.
I don't know. I mean, maybe she just ate too many like McDonald's cheeseburgers and all that fucking shit went into her system. But obviously they just broke up and he's all heartbroken. I'm like, she's 17 years old, dude, and you're 50 something. She's gonna want a new schlong, but you know.
Yeah, that's really weird.
This isn't like the 1200s and shit when people used to marry 9-year-old girls. Well, they still do that in other countries. It's fucking crazy people. But anyway, so he's an asshole leader of the North Cavalry. He's kind of like you got to do as I say, kind of individual. But Clancy Brown's not having any of that shit. And they, they're kind of you hear these creatures in the still of the night. So what we don't really know what the Burrowers are until they meet up with this Native American gentleman, and they show him a pretty nice time, right? Well, what do they do with that nice gentleman?
They give him a nice time. They play with his legs. They hit him around a bit.
Slap him. I thought it was roughhousing. You know when they pull, were they pulling the toenails off of his feet, or were they just cutting the bottom of his feet or something like that?
It looked like they were cutting his feet. The lighting is like too dark.
Yeah, there's a lot of scenes where it's really
but
dark.
I guess that's for budget purposes to hide maybe the crappy effects or something.
And we meet this other gentleman named Callahan, who I think is there's only two African American characters in this film, and Callahan is a nice dude.
His first name is Walnut. That must suck to be named after.
I think that was his nickname. I'm not sure. I thought it was just his nickname, but he was never owned. I think he was never a slave, right? He was born free, because I'm kind of funky on the time of slavery back then. Because I know
slavery had only ended like 15 years earlier.
And another guy who was I think in the cavalry, who was also black, gives him shit for it, but it's just kind of hinted to. It's never really. It's so funny because they almost used the N-word in the film, but I think the director was kind of scared of using it because they were about to call him that, and they cut it right off before he says anything. Right. And so anyway, there's a little bit of infighting in there and stuff like that, but I kind of like the. I like how the movie feels raw and it feels real. You know, it feels like
they're very mean to the fucking Indians, or should I say Native Americans?
Yeah, it's so funny because well, it's not funny, but I mean, it's strange how you see the film and you see it's like, holy shit! You realize they were treating. You know how like you can still see nowadays how black people are treated like shitty for some parts, like with culture and shit like that. Like you know how many years ago slavery ended and stuff like that. But then you see what they did to Native Americans, and they really treated them like shit. Like they really kicked the shit out of them.
We like baited them, killed them.
And then people are still debating the name of what is it, the Redskins? No, Redskins for the football team. It's like a grinning cartoon fucking Native. And listen, I'm far from being like an apologist or like a pussy like PC person, but I was like watching this, I was like, Jesus Christ, like it really must have just been shit back then, just like horrible, like, you know, if you had the guns, you had the power basically. But there were literally people walking around thinking that they were better than you just by birth and by blood. It's almost like if you look in like in Britain, like you see the Queen in them. Like, what did the Queen really do? Like, what does the Queen of England do that she's better than?
Out of the right vagina.
Yeah, it's really. Once you fall out the right vagina, you have all the fucking props you need to rule the world, I guess. But they don't really rule the world anyway. But getting back to this film, I like the tone of the film. It feels like a Western movie. Like I don't know. I mean, whoa, here they come again. I live in a really bad neighborhood, I guess.
There's always something going on.
What did you think about the tone and the pacing of the film?
I thought it was pretty good, actually. I mean, it didn't bore me at all.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish that maybe the lighting was a little better. That's like my main complaint, actually.
They didn't have enough money to buy lights.
It would have been cool if the Burrowers looked a little cooler and they got more into them a bit.
I did like when they do find one of the victims of the Burrowers, because we do find out later what the Burrowers do is that they paralyze their victims and let them kind of fester underneath the ground.
Oh, and I like that. The way
that was pretty cool.
People under the ground.
Because they'll stab your neck. I guess that's when the paralytic is injected into you, and then they kind of spew something on you, I guess, to make it. I don't know what the second part was, where they spit on you.
And your organs kind of go soft, and then they bury you.
That's when they eat you, right?
Well, they bury you, your organs go soft, and then they come and feed it. Basically, they're like spiders.
Yeah. So we do find a second. We do find the first victim, who is this girl. And then one kid is tasked, who's like the nice kid that William Apather's character was trying to court his mom, who was pretty hot, a skinny hot chick from back then. And the kid takes this girl who they think is dead, because they do hear scratching in her foot, so she could only move one of her toes in her boot. So it's like really like
her boobs can swivel.
Yeah, well that's
she
what that.
She can operate nipple tassels, but she can't move.
That's what that kid was hoping to do, because the kid is like about 15, 16, takes the girl out into the middle. I guess he's supposed to deliver her body or bury her somewhere to the family. And he's like kissing the body, and I was like, is he gonna do something really strange? I mean, kissing already is like fucking horrendous, but he's like, you think that he's gonna start trying to fuck the girl or something? I'm like, what the hell's going on here?
Crop out his boner. The actor had a boner.
A 1800s boner, so it was like going through his pantaloons.
It's an ancient boner. His cum would be like yogurt at this point.
And you could probably hold up a building with it by now.
It would be like some kind of like smelly French cheese at this point.
But he gets attacked by the monsters himself, and he's done for. I mean, you think it's not. You don't really. This movie doesn't go where you think it's supposed to go, or where you would think a normal kind of Western horror film would be, or any type of horror film where somebody would find him. Like I thought they were going to try to find him later. And you figure out by fucking ending credits, you see that they eat his ass too. I mean, like, nobody gets out of this.
It doesn't really, like, end.
No, really, it just kind of goes on because the main character, by the end of it, he doesn't even have any reason to tell these guys what's going on because for the most part, he kills all the monsters that are, I guess, that showed up. There's plenty of more of these burrows because when we find out that the Native Americans know. I think they. Well, do you remember what the name of the tribe was? There was some sort of like different tribes that do.
Or something?
No, the Utes are the ones that have dealt with them firsthand, but there were other.
Is that what you asked?
No, I meant the other in Native Americans. I was gonna say Indians. Whoops. Other Native Americans.
Like, I guess I don't think they're like of any importance. They're just some random tribe.
Right. So they meet. In the middle of the film, they meet with this girl named Faith, and she's not necessarily integral to the plot until she says, "Oh, if we find the Utes, then they'll they can kind of kill these monsters." And I mean, there's a lot of shit that goes on in this movie. Like, it's not like it almost feels like each section is a chapter in a book, like a long book, because a lot of stuff actually happens when they meet different characters. There's a sequence, unfortunately, when Clancy Brown he gets killed in the film. I was like, oh shit! I thought it was gonna be a movie where these guys would, especially from the trailer, go to camp one night and they'll all, get picked off like a regular horror film. But it doesn't happen like that. The thing with
not at all. It's kind of just, it seems almost like very realistic, like what would happen.
Yeah, there's like a lot of elements in this film where, just like in Below, there's secondary kind of villains in these kind of horror films because you got Native Americans coming after you, you got the monsters coming after you, you certainly got the elements going after you.
And you got your own people coming after you when that guy was crazy after getting poisoned.
Right, William Apatow's character. He gets since he gets attacked too by them at the night. His whole body feels numb because he just got the paralyzing thing, but he didn't get, I guess, the full stab of it. So I mean, I think the character interactions are great, especially Coffee. What do you think of Coffee as the main character? Do you think to me he felt like the main guy from Avatar, where he's kind of like just there. No, I didn't.
It was nice to have someone that's like not a complete asshole.
He sort of was. He got Clancy Brown killed, so he is kind of an asshole. He shot at a Native American that was kind of greeting them, but he didn't know that. So when that happened, he kind of pissed off hundreds of Native Americans, and that leads to Clancy Brown's character getting shot through the neck and killed, and then they're just like, oh fuck, so they kind of have to survive that. I didn't know if you burn poison oak, you can choke people to death. So that's something you can learn, kids, and you can do next time you're with the Boy Scouts of America.
I'm gonna kill the rest of. I'm gonna go to all the reservations and burn poison oak.
Finish the job that the white man did. Yeah, I think tonal wise, did you think the creatures served the purpose? Just because for the most part in the film it's at night and you kind of just see dark fields and you hear this very unique, like I guess a sound that they make. You don't really see them for the most part until certain parts.
Actually.
Yeah, I like the sounds too, but you don't really see
like vagina pits that they create in the ground.
Yeah, because they make these kind of cool like spirals into the ground where they dig they bury the people kind of in shallow graves, but they live in the spiraled kind of grounds and the holes in the ground. And
did they like explain if they're like alien or from Earth? Not really, right?
The Faith, I believe, says that they come every every 3 generations they come and they feed and then they go back on the ground. So I think that's the only thing that they can say. So maybe their origins are from Earth. But they basically look like a monster that is laying like a dog, but the bottom half is a human being's legs facing the opposite direction, basically like a grasshopper, right? Because you do actually see a grasshopper earlier on in the film on a stalk, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, I guess that makes sense because they're kind of in the same body type. But I just don't. They're a mix of.
There was a human had sex with Jiminy Cricket.
Yeah, and he was like, "When you wish for that pussy."
The first
but I really hate the design of the monsters. I don't know how many times I can repeat that. They just look so generic, and it almost looks like the monster, they didn't finish the design for the creature. It kind of like a maquette. When they sculpt it out, but they don't color it or anything like that. It's basically whited out, and They're definitely a mix of practical effects and CG. Because when they're fully shown, they're CG creatures. But when you see their puppet heads moving around, it's like it's pretty disappointing.
And everything.
But yeah, pretty much everybody meets their end in a grisly way in this film. It's like pretty horrible.
The only person who really makes it out unharmed is that asshole Henry.
Yeah, because he's not. The four guys decide to go their own way, and they leave the cavalry. Like, what's his name? Callahan Walnut just like disappears. He's like the cook for them, and he just disappears. He's like, fuck it. And then Coffee and the rest of the two other guys kind of go off on their own, trying to look for it. The kid is dead. Everybody else is like gone. The cavalry disappears there. The reason why they did is because they wanted to cut the time. So they were like, fuck, we don't want to deal with this cavalry, so we'll go figure out shit on our own. And I think, that was a way to get the four guys. I would have liked to seen like lots of guys get killed in the film, because then it becomes like Aliens kind of mode where there's just multiple people just getting killed in left and right. But that would have been like
Ripley to come down with her that giant suit she wears.
I don't know why the creatures they didn't attack the cavalry, because we only know that four guys got killed from the cavalry on one night.
Away from large groups.
No, but they got four guys out of that group. So, I mean, they got them when they were all together.
A bunch of them, I don't know.
No, but they were all at the same spot at that time. So, they did attack a large group of people. Oh, maybe because they were off on the side somewhere. Maybe you're right.
Maybe they might be smart and know that these guys were, not as strong as the cavalry or
Probably. And, at the very end, I mean, everybody...
Jiminy Cricket was pretty smart. He's one of their ancestors.
They end up meeting with a Ute warrior because at the very final end, Coffee has a standoff with the monster. His foot gets caught in a bear trap. And I mean, it's actually a pretty tense scene because you're like, how the fuck is this guy getting out of here? Because nobody in this film has any luck for the most part. I mean, a Native American guy that tries to help him, he gets killed. One of the Ute warriors, they're like, this first guy, Mapother, when he gets poisoned, he's walking around all delirious. They said he's already poisoned, like he's dead meat. Anyway, he's just gonna start melting away basically, and he leaves them out for them to get eaten. And during
watching him die though, it was nice.
During that section, Coffee realizes that he sees the same brooch that he had given Marianne before, so now he knows that she's dead for real. And it's like, man, this is a fucking dark movie because nobody's making it out alive so far. And so the final act is when Coffee has to stab or pin all the monsters to the ground with these giant sticks or spears, and sunlight kills them. So it's kind of like they're vampires of some sort too. It's very strange. It's a very
Jiminy Cricket was involved in the dark arts.
Yes, it was. He was looking all this time. Those monsters were totally looking for fucking who's
their overlord Satan.
That's true. They were just doing that.
That's why they live underground. That's their goal. They're always spiraling and burrowing towards him.
And when they're underground, they all turn into fucking Gary Oldman. That's just what they all look like. And then they say horribly anti-Semitic things and agree with Tom. Did you hear about that? Yeah. What he said? I couldn't. He got in trouble because he was sort of defending Mel Gibson, and he's like, you can't say stuff about He was just that's the gist of it. I don't know what he said. I think he said that he knew that Hollywood was run by Jews. So I'm like, Oldman, don't say nothing. Don't say.
Yeah, don't ruin your reputation.
Just make it up and say Oldman is a Jewish name. That's all you gotta say. Don't say anything. Just don't stop being dumb. You know what I mean? Now I just picture him running away from.
Take the first letter of his name and mix it with his last name. It is
Goldman. Anyway, but yeah, this movie's dark. I mean, we even find out that because Coffee gets away and he's like, I'm gonna get a doctor to help all the other injured characters because Callahan gets his foot shot, or he gets shot in the leg. Another Native American character gets shot in the chest by that fucking asshole Mapother's character shooting people wildly with his gun. That pissed me off so bad that he would just pull people's guns and start shooting them blindly because he shot everybody else. Like, he never shot any of the monsters. There's always somebody else he's shooting. And yeah, he was good when he shot that Ute warrior, so that was pretty interesting. But yeah, and then when we find out that Callahan died from getting his leg sawed off because it was infected, and then
You think that was really true though, or you think that guy Henry tortured him or something?
I mean, we saw a shot of him with his leg sawed off, but I guess you're right. The leader of the Doug Hutchison character was a piece of garbage anyway. But what doesn't make me think he would have just shot Coffee in the head too for letting him feed that Native American fakely. Yeah, everybody gets basically killed except for Coffee and the cavalry guys, the main cavalry guys, and that's just it. And we just kind of left watching Coffee.
I just hate the fact that douchebag is the only person completely unaffected.
Yeah, he's kind of the character that you would expect to get a really horrible death, but that was actually just saved for Parcher's.
Karma will catch up to him.
Because Parcher's character is kind of like, he starts off as a good hired gun kind of nice guy, and then eventually you just see his desperation build, and he, when he gets attacked by the monsters, then he just starts looking like a fucking asshole. So I guess it's one of those films where you see when people become pushed to the limit, then they just become pieces of shit, but nothing happens to
the limit.
nothing happens to Mapother's character. So it's very like disconcerting, and they just
have an 80s montage of him spearing the Burrowers.
Yeah, that's what it looked like basically. And Native American characters get Faith on the other Native Ute guy, they just get hung. You just look at it and you're like, oh fuck, they went there. Everybody just got killed, and it's one of those dark movies where it's kind of like, I think it was like
fucking accurate though.
It was like a.
Do that kind of stuff.
It certainly felt like a history lesson where it was like, look, this is what we did to people back then. It was they hung everybody else was just sawed. Nobody made it out here good. Like Coffee is just kind of there. He can't say anything. Like, because I know the cavalry leader was like, oh, he was spewing something about monsters, and they were laughing it off. And he has no like proof. Although I would think you could see the creature's bodies speared there, but I guess they didn't, right? I don't know.
Well, maybe they burned away entirely.
It really is I think it's a good film to watch if you're in a cross genre. It is for the most part, it is slow moving, but it is to be expected for a Western film. It does feel like a Western film.
The most obvious thing it made me think of, although it's not technically a Western because it's in England, is Field in England.
Okay, yeah, I can see what you mean.
Just because it had that same kind of like shitty feel,
Yeah, I mean it does feel like nihilistic and depressing in a sense that it's a very dark film. I mean, in that sense, where literally because you hated the way it was lit, but it's also there's a lot of stuff about it where you're just like, ew.
I didn't hate it. I just wish they could have fucking upped it, like open the aperture like a millimeter more. Yeah,
so I'd say watch it. I would give it it's a watchable film. That's what I'll say. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Stealing a smooch from a comatose woman.
Okay. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10.
Is that how you eat vagina, Danny?
Hanging Indians because you're angry that society doesn't accept your marriage to a 16-year-old girl.
So un-PC. So, Danny, what's the final word?
Pish, posh, kielbasa.